All right, Daggermasters, welcome back to the Daggerheart DM Pocket Guide series, your crash course in running better games and building cooler stuff for your players. I'm AK, you're in the Pocket Dimension, and today we're talking about adversaries and environments, how to build them, how to use them, and how to make them feel way more fun than just you enter a room and roll initiative, because there is no initiative in Daggerheart. Adversaries and environments are crucial elements that provide tension, challenge, and opportunity in your Daggerheart campaigns, and they're covered in Chapter 4 of the Core Rulebook if you'd like to follow along. Number 1, adversaries, the foes you face. First up, we're going to talk about the incredible creatures and characters your players will clash with, adversaries. Understanding their stat blocks is key to running and building dynamic, memorable encounters. So when you look at an adversary, you'll find a few core components that tell you exactly what you're dealing with. Up first, name, tier, and type. Every adversary has a name. The Vexroot, Chunkulus, Lisa. Their tier corresponds to your party's level. Typically speaking, tier 1 for level 1, tier 2 for levels 2 through 4, tier 3 for 5 through 7, and tier 4 for levels 8, 9, and 10. Of course, you can move them up or down based on if you want to have a really hard fight or something that's just more of a skirmish. And then there's their type, like standard, bruiser, leader, minion, horde, ranged, skulk, social, support, or solo, which immediately tells you their role in a fight. For example, a jagged knife bandit is a standard adversary, your average foot soldier. A head guard, on the other hand, is a leader, indicating they'll have features that bolster their allies, all the way up to solos, which are like your big bads in boss level fights. Next are descriptions, motives, and tactics. What's my motivation? This is not just flavor text. This section is your narrative compass. It describes their appearance, but more importantly, those motives and tactics become suggestions for how they'll behave in the scene, whether they're trying to escape, gather resources, or show off. If your head guard has motives like arrest, close gates, pin down, seek glory, you know how they'll react when your party tries to talk their way past or sneak into the keep. The difficulty is set by the GM, and it's a number that players must meet or beat in order to hit the adversary or overcome its effects, just like the evasion score for PCs and the AC in other games. Damage thresholds, hit points, and stress all function the same way they do for PCs. Damage thresholds are used to determine how many HP to mark when an adversary takes a hit. Minor takes 1 HP, major damage takes 2, and severe marks 3 hit points. When all HP are marked, the adversary is defeated. Stress is tracked just like for player characters. If all stress boxes are marked, the adversary becomes vulnerable, making attacks against them at advantage. And certain adversaries may also have specific features which clear or generate stress. The attack modifier in standard attack is the bread and butter type of offensive capability. It tells you their attack bonus, range, damage dice, and damage type. Experiences, just like PCs, some adversaries can have experiences, which are narrative tags reflecting their specializations. You as the GM can spend fear to add an adversary's experience modifier to their role, making them truly formidable. Features are the special abilities that make each adversary unique. Passives are always active, like the Acid Burrower's Relentless feature, which allows you to spotlight them up to 3 times per GM turn, making them incredibly fast and dangerous. Actions are things that they can do when they're in the spotlight, like the Jagged Knife Lieutenant using more where that came from to summon 3 Jagged Knife lackeys, which are minions, at far range, escalating the fight immediately. And reactions are triggered by specific events, like the Head Guard's Momentum feature, where you gain a fear when they make a successful attack against a PC. These are fantastic for keeping players on their toes. We're going to talk for a minute about balancing encounters with the battle guide. The Core Rulebook provides this battle guide to help you roughly balance your fights. It gives you a battle points budget based on your party size. The formula is simple: 3 times the number of PCs in combat plus 2. So for a party of 3 PCs, you'd start with 11 battle points, and then you spend these points to add adversaries to your encounter. You can also adjust this budget up or down based on factors like wanting a shorter or a more difficult fight, or if you're using multiple solo adversaries. Remember, this is a guide, not a rigid law. Daggerheart encourages dynamic, narrative-driven play. Use the battle guide as a starting point, especially if you're a new GM, but always be ready to adjust on the fly based on how the story is unfolding and what feels right at your table. Next, improvising adversaries, because sometimes you'll need an adversary that isn't exactly in what you wrote for the encounter, or you'll need to quickly scale one up or down, so don't sweat it. The improvising adversaries section in Chapter 4 is your best friend. Adjusting tiers allows you to quickly change an existing adversary's stats to fit a different tier using the improvised statistics by tier table. This means that you could take a tier 1 goblin and easily scale it up to a tier 3 goblin war boss by just adjusting their difficulty, hit point, stress, and attack modifier. It also allows for reflavoring. Want a ghostly cultist instead of a simple bandit? Reflavor that jagged knife bandit stat block. Change their motives and tactics from ambush, conceal, divide, profit to something like whisper heresy, spread madness, consume souls. You can add or change a feature or two, making them feel entirely new. You don't have to reinvent the wheel each time. Maybe the coup de grace, normally a physical attack, becomes a soul-crushing scream that deals magical damage. One thing to note with hordes, minions, and solos is that these types have specific scaling considerations. For minions, their passive determines how many extra minions are defeated when a PC deals enough damage. This is great for those cinematic moments where a single heroic swing takes out a whole group of lesser foes. We're going to move on now to environments, the world around you. Beyond creatures, the world itself is a living, breathing character in Daggerheart, and that's where environments come in. So what are environments? There's something in a scene that isn't a PC or an adversary. This includes the physical space like crumbling ruins or a bustling market, maybe background NPCs, natural forces, anything else that can affect the scene. They're built to interact with and support your adversaries both mechanically and narratively. And just like adversaries, environments have stat blocks to help you run them dynamically. So they have a name, a tier, and an impulse. And impulses are like their motives and tactics. For example, a raging river might have impulses like corrode, drown, divide, sweep away. They have features, which are the unique effects an environment can have on the scene. These often include feature questions below them to inspire plot hooks and connect to your story. Passives are always active, like the Abandoned Grove's Overgrown Battlefield, which forces PCs to make instinct rolls or gain stress due to strange magical flora. And actions are things the environments can do when you spotlight it, often powered by fear. The Divine Usurpation event has a Defilers Abound action that costs 2 fear to summon fallen shock troops, which are minions, to assist in the ritual. And fear features. Many environments have powerful fear features that you can trigger by spending fear, intensifying the scene. For example, a Molten Scourge, which is a volcanic dragon, has a cracked scales passive that gets you fear when it takes damage, which you can then immediately spend on its Shattering Might action to make it hit harder. Just like adversaries, environments are incredibly flexible. You can adjust an existing environment stat blocks to fit your party's tier or even reflavor them entirely. If you want to turn a mundane setting into something more, take the features of the Imperial Court and reflavor it into the Queen's Birthday Feast environment, adding social challenges and opportunities for intrigue. You can also add or remove fear features when scaling environments to higher or lower tiers, ensuring they always present an appropriate challenge. And remember, if the stat block isn't working for your narrative, you can always ignore it entirely and just lean more into theater of the mind and what it is that you and your party are trying to build together. Let's bring it all together and talk about dynamic encounters for a minute, because the true magic happens when adversaries and environments work in concert to create a living, breathing world for your players. Daggerheart is a fiction-first game. This means that battles aren't just about reducing hit points. They serve a narrative function. Ask yourself, what helps tell the story? Is this fight meant to reveal more about the villain's influence? Is it a consequence of a failed stealth roll? Or is it the epic culmination of a character's personal arc? By tying the combat to the overarching story, every punch, every cast of a spell feels meaningful. Now, GM moves and fear. This is where your fear tokens come into play, Daggermasters. You gain fear when players roll with fear or during downtime. Don't hoard it. Spending fear is your primary way to make GM moves and keep the tension high. You can spend fear to make additional GM moves on your turn. You could spotlight additional adversaries in the battle, making the fight feel more overwhelming. And critically, you can use an environment or adversary's fear feature. This is how you unleash those powerful scene-defining moments. Imagine spinning a fear to have a demonic hound pack use their dread howl to force all PCs within range to lose hope or mark stress, truly putting the party on the back foot. Or an elder adversary using There Will Be Peace to compel attacking creatures to fall unconscious. Remember, you can always improvise a fear feature on the spot, even for existing adversaries, to escalate the scene dramatically. Maybe that wounded Greater Earth elemental unleashes a living landslide that shifts the battlefield, creating new obstacles or separating the party. Lead with the fiction, describe the desperation, and then signal the mechanical escalation. For those truly epic encounters, Daggerheart introduces concepts like phase changes for major adversaries. When a powerful foe reaches a certain hit point threshold, they might transform, changing their stats or gaining new features. Think of the Realm Breaker becoming the undefeated champion as it marks its last hit point, gaining new abilities and relentless aggression. And for the biggest of big baddies, we have the Colossi. These aren't just single stat blocks. They're made of multiple segments, each with their own stats and features, allowing for truly massive multi-part battles where players can scale the creature and target specific weak points. It turns a fight into a moving, living puzzle. I just ran my first Colossus of the Drylands campaign frame, y'all. Do not sleep on it. Finally, remember your role as Daggermaster is to be a fan of the characters and a collaborator with your players. Ground the world in motive. Give NPCs and adversaries clear motivations. Why are these goblins attacking? What do they truly want? Bring the mechanics to life. Use vivid descriptions and, if applicable, visual aids. When the skeleton knight stomps forward to attack Tabby, describe the clang of its armor and the clack of its bones, making the moment feel real. If you're using maps and minis, lay them out to show the party exactly how outnumbered they are. So there you have it, Daggermasters. We have unpacked the anatomy of adversaries, navigated the battle guide, discussed improvising foes, explored dynamic environments, and talked about how to tie it all together for truly memorable Daggerheart encounters. It's all about using these tools to craft a compelling narrative-first experience where every moment, every role pushes the story forward. And remember, the rules are there to serve the story you want to tell. Keep playing, keep experimenting, and don't be afraid to make the game your own. One thing that I've gotten into the habit of every time I run a Daggerheart session now is just a quick little conversation and check-in with myself, reminding me that I'm there to tell a really great story with some friends. It's not sack of hit points versus sack of hit points. Of course, if you have any more questions about Daggerheart mechanics or DM tools, just drop a comment, and that way we'll know exactly what you want to hear about in future episodes. So until then, bless your Daggerheart, and I'll see you next time.